On today's episode of The Unwritten Rule, we have a good show. Fall camp's underway for Mizzou football, so we got some storylines coming out of there. Some kind of housekeeping stuff as well. Talked a little Corey Batoon. Talked, just a couple of housekeeping items for the Tigers as they head into fall camp. Storylines are going to come out and all that stuff. And then we had a quick basketball thing. We have a visitor, a 5-star, coming to campus in September. So we talked about him a little bit. And just about what it could mean and how big it is that Mizzou's still getting 5-star visitors. Just basically appreciating Dennis's recruiting. Then we had quick hits, jerseys of the week, Shawnee's Maine Birds, and the best things we learned. We talked some Tigers in the NFL. We revisited the Miami of Ohio game because there was some more details on that. Payton, who was back this week, got to say his hypothetical matchup, who he'd want to see Mizzou play in the non-con. So we talked about that for football. And then, finish with the best things we learned. Went on a deep dive of some former recruits for Mizzou basketball, football, some notable names. So fun show to get your weekend started. We are going to do the Mount Rushmore of former Missouri Tigers on Sunday. We're finally going to get to that one because we have all three of us back together. We wanted to do that and have that for you guys with everybody because it's a great Mount Rushmore. And just a great trip down memory lane of what could have been on the recruiting trail for Mizzou. So that'll come Sunday. But until then, we have a good show talking some fall camp and all that stuff. Without further ado, good Lord, let's get started. The Unwritten Rule starts right now.
Marcel, where are you going with that disc? You are not putting that on again. Marcel, okay, if you press that button, you are in very, very big trouble.
Attention. Everybody stop what you're doing. It's time for The Unwritten Rule, a Mizzou sports podcast brought to you by the Believe Network, alongside Payton Haverman and Kenny Van Doren. Here is your host, Jack Knowlton.
Welcome back to The Unwritten Rule. Today is Friday, August 2nd. And yes, I'm emphasizing the August, Payton and Kenny, because it's fall camp time. Football is back for, in general, and for Mizzou. I think we're recording this on Thursday. There's the NFL Hall of Fame game. Isn't there not? That now there's football every week, I think, until January, right? We finally have football to watch on our plate. So that's fun. More specifically with Mizzou, they've got fall camp. Obviously, storylines and stuff will kind of come out. We're going to talk about some of those. It is nice to just look at, we have a show planning doc we all share. It is nice to look at it with just under our football segment, just have 4 or 5 stories to talk about and news events. We're finally out of the dog days of summer. We have a bunch to talk about. Unfortunately, we're not starting on all too great of a note for fall camp for Mizzou football because we have some off the field issues that came to light from Eli Hoff. He posted this a couple of days ago. Phillip Roche, the safety, was arrested on Monday night. He had 3 warrants for failing to appear in court, had received multiple citations for going 45 plus miles over the speed limit. Guys, a depth piece in the secondary. Payton, you brought this up. I'll bring it back to the show. Kenny, a very quick old takes exposed for you for a possible X factor or a guy to watch for Mizzou. Not great, gentlemen.
Yeah, that's it's kind of poor timing that I mentioned that he was like the guy I was really kind of leaning on. But right now we don't know what kind of discipline or suspension he might take from the team. It's just one of those things too, where, he did screw up and this, there's multiple parts to this of just, not doing the right thing. But it's also just one of those things that I don't know. I might be just being a minority group here, but you can't really hold it against the guy. Yes, it is completely wrong what he did, but it's something that, they just have to kind of move on with and just make sure it just doesn't happen again. There's teams across the country that have had issues like this, especially recently. We know Georgia is like, piling up with some of the issues like off the field, and you just don't want that to happen, with Mizzou. This team has finally turned the corner. Phillip's a young guy. He's a sophomore this season, sophomore on the field. And you just don't want this to, happen to anyone else on the field. You don't want to make an example out of it. You just want them to kind of move on. We've seen players in the past that have had warrants for their arrest just for off the field incidents. And it's just one of those things. Yes, it's wrong, but it's something you just got to grow from and move on with. Luckily from what we've read on here, no one was hurt. But kind of moving forward, you don't want anyone to be a part of this.
Yeah, I mean, it's not good, though. I think it's worth noting that he's gotten multiple citations for going 45 over. That's very, very bad. And failing to appear like that's just boneheaded stuff, really, at the end of the day. I mean, maybe I kind of, since nobody's been hurt yet, there is an opportunity to kind of let him grow from it, maybe. I'm sure Eli Drinkwitz is not taking it lightly. I'm sure it'll be addressed in-house. You'd have to think he'd be at least suspended for a week or two. But like you said, Kenny, I mean, this is such a big year for Mizzou. This is like the last thing you want to see is players missing time or just doing stuff like this. I mean, especially because I agree with you. I think Phillip Roche, there is a lot to like about how he played last year. And he could very easily be a very good, at least rotational piece for Mizzou this year. But you can't do stuff like this. You got to be smarter than that. I'm sure Drinkwitz, it does feel like a situation where Drinkwitz and the coaching staff will likely give him another chance. I highly doubt he'll be kicked off the team for something like this. But he better. I mean, I'm sure it comes with strings attached. Like, hey, you better not get in trouble for something like this again. But they'll move forward with him, I'm sure. And the safety room. I mean, just getting back to the football field. I mean, they're kind of like one. If this turns out to be a long-term thing for Roche, they're like one injury to the safety group away from it kind of becoming very scary quickly. I mean, you have. Obviously, I think Marvin Burks and Joseph Charleston are the two expected starters up top. But I mean, then Phillip Roche was almost certainly the third guy there that you'd rotate in. You have Trevez Johnson, Sidney Williams, who can probably fill that void in some sort of way. But I mean, after that, I mean, then you get into like Caleb Flagg, who's a transfer from Houston Baptist, who maybe only is here because Corey Flagg, the linebacker from Miami, is also here. And then you get Trajan Greco, who is just a freshman. Straight up, like no red shirt, just a true freshman. So it hurts Mizzou in a lot of ways. Hopefully he learns from it. I don't think it's something he needs to necessarily be kicked off the team for because nobody's been hurt yet, but it's just dumb. I mean, multiple times going over 45 plus over. It's just very boneheaded.
Yeah. I mean, I don't think, we're not a podcast to get in on all the ramifications and debate that and stuff like that. But yeah, I mean, like Payton, you make a good point. No one's hurt yet, but it's obviously dangerous behavior. Like someone could have very easily gotten hurt. So yeah, definitely, should face some consequences, but you're right. Hopefully, he does those and does what he needs to do to take care of all this so he can get back out on the field, hopefully, for this team. But yeah, scary stuff. Not a super positive start to fall camp in the secondary because, like you mentioned, Payton, it's a thin unit. You're already going to have probably getting to the midway point of the season with players being banged up, and you're going to have to rely on backups at times. And so losing guys to off the field, silly stuff like this is just, not the anchor you need going into a season. So yeah, hopefully Phillip Roche sorts all that stuff out and Mizzou handles it. We'll see, I guess, what happens in the next few days and weeks with his situation. Let's segue to I guess I kind of do want to, I'll call it a kind of debate this topic or just give your thoughts. So, obviously Mizzou did kind of a internal media day for local media and stuff. And so, tweets and all that were coming out. And this, I think, caught all our attention. It was Corey Batoon who was talking, it looks like KOMU8, shout out, had this clip. He was basically asked about his defense and stuff like that. and said that defensive schemes tend to be a little overrated. He continued on, talked about kind of the differences that he's bringing on, to the defense this year and stuff, obviously coming over from South Alabama where he was their defensive coordinator. Payton, I remember your reaction to that comment itself, though, wasn't the most positive. So I'll start with you. And Kenny, your thoughts as well. What do you think with that? Schemes tend to be a little overrated. Interesting words from a first year DC, looking to kind of, jump up a rung, not only for himself, but also trying to help a defense, reach the heights, or at least come close to the heights that it got to last year.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't love the quote. I don't expect you to go out there and like break down every single like what kind of blitzes you're going to run on a 3rd and long or something like that. But I wanted to hear a little bit of like, yeah, it'll look a little familiar to what it was last year, because I think everybody would like for the defense to replicate what it did largely last year. I get what he's saying here, and obviously players are more important than just having a good scheme. You need the players to execute it, no doubt about it. I mean, this is a defense that just lost maybe the best corner duo, actually most likely the best corner duo in school history. They just lost a 1st rounder in Darius Robinson / Mizzou. They lost Tyron Hopper. They lost Chad Bailey, who didn't play much last year, but was good when he did. Half the D line room is gone. So no doubt, like the players are most important. They're going to need guys to step up this year. They're going to need transfer portal additions to play well. But I would have liked to have heard just a little bit about the defense. I mean, when you get a new guy in like Corey Batoon, you're hopeful that it'll go well. You're even like maybe optimistic at certain points, but there's always that kind of like, what if he's worse, like mentality that's going to seep into your brain a little bit. And so I wanted to hear just a little more about his scheme. I don't expect him to really give much. It's always been a thing for Mizzou to not give away things to the opponent. Last year, I mean, they basically pretended they were running their full offense against Middle Tennessee and South Dakota and then broke it open against Kansas State. But I don't know, man. I would have liked to have heard a little bit more than just schemes are overrated when he was asked about what is going to maybe look a little different.
I like it. It's different.
Ooh.
You kind of look at it, what Blake Baker did, and he got really technical sometimes, breaking down, what the jack position was, something that LSU used, and then him kind of molding it into a star position and having just different ways that he went with things. And Corey Batoon just seems like a different guy. And I don't know. I just like the difference there in kind of seeing, a different DC, different kind of ideologies. And he's more technical about, how you are as a player and how you perform. And he even says it in this interview. It's like, players over plays. The schemes will come through, but how are you like improving off the line? How are you improving in the pass rush? Staying, sticking on someone's hip. How are you improving in that form? And then once you improve on all that, it'll just fit right into the scheme. It'll fit right into any defense that they'll drop into against offenses. And I think that's a cool thing. I just don't hear that often. That's definitely a different defense than last year. We'll get more into like maybe a breakdown of the roster when we get a little bit closer. But of course, a lot of transfers there, a lot of new guys, a lot of guys with Power 4, Power 5 experience. But to hear this from a defensive coordinator, it's more than just, the schemes tend to be a little bit overrated. It's a whole 30-second clip, and he kind of gets into it about, he just cares about the technical parts that really just play into how a player is developing on the field and in practice.
I think that's interesting, Kenny, because I wonder, when you say that, it's almost like he says, like you said, he cares more about player development and how the players are growing rather than, worrying about fitting players into whatever scheme he wants. I think that was a good spin, because I think, I kind of had the thought that it's like, well, if you don't have the personnel you did last year and you don't have the strongest, do you get around that by having a really good game plan? And so you seem to say, or at least think Corey Batoon is saying, it's instead of that, it's, we've got a new group of guys. We're going to try and get the most out of their strengths and then let the scheme kind of play into that rather than the opposite.
Yeah, I think too, with a group of guys that maybe they're more familiar with each other now, but a couple months ago that they weren't really familiar with each other. Some new guys there, some returners. a whole, new defensive staff changing a little bit, especially with the DC. It's like adapting to what you have as well. Of course, these last couple of months, it's all about been development and getting these guys up to speed and getting back up to speed and just getting better than last season. But how can you kind of adapt to what you have? It's a different team than last year. Payton mentioned the holes changes maybe in the secondary. How do you kind of adapt to that and not have to worry about going 4 weeks into the season and noticing that you got your team, your players aren't adapting to the scheme that you have in place?
Payton, do you have any thoughts on that? Any counter?
No, I mean, like, I totally get where Kenny's coming from with that. I mean, the player, and like I said, I do believe players are most important, but you don't want players out there, good players out there running a crappy scheme. I mean, we saw it. There were a lot of those same players on last year and the year before's defense that also played in the first 6 weeks under Steve Wilkes, where they were running 3-3 or just ridiculous sets out there that would make them look completely ridiculous. I mean, there was a play where Devin Nicholson, it was the Armed Forces Bowl, there were opt-outs, but there was a play where Devin Nicholson was at cornerback. So it matters to me. I mean, I just think I would have liked to have at least heard a little bit of his own, I just want to hear a little bit of how his own style is going to maybe mesh with what it was last year.
Yeah, I think that's fair. I think you both make some valid points with that, and it is when you see that quote on the surface. Yeah, as a Mizzou fan, I think your mind flashes back to just when it didn't have an identity and when it didn't have a good scheme or good counters to what offenses were doing. But at the same time, I think Corey Batoon, he's built up a strong enough resume, I think, to maybe trust that what he's doing, will probably work out and get the most out of these players. But again, and it goes back to Payton's point at the beginning, it's all about what these guys do on the field with whatever scheme Corey Batoon implements. If the players just can't handle it or don't execute it, I mean, then it doesn't matter. It's hard to scheme around, just bad performances. But yeah, I think it's an interesting. We'll have, I'm sure we'll have more kind of buzz come out of this. It's obviously Corey Batoon will be an interesting guy to scrutinize with it being his first season and what he's in charge of with the death row defense, as this tweet calls it, or as it's been called. But yeah, I think it'll be interesting, going forward with what he says as fall camp rolls on from Mizzou, what maybe comes out about players who's that's what I'm curious to see is who emerges. And Kenny and I talked about it a little bit, not to the same extent last show, but who emerges as maybe an unsung guy who's played well in the spring and played well at the start of fall camp and did, whether they lost a lot of weight in the summer or did something different with themselves, who kind of emerges to execute what Corey Batoon's hoping to set up. Anyway, that's my spiel on it. We will see what emerges. Other news, I guess again, kind of on the not as positive vibes, but medical red shirts. We had a couple of them get reported a couple of days ago. Running back Christopher Cray, is it Cray? I think.
Yes.
And then Isaac Thompson will both medically redshirt this season. Both are going to remain around the program, which you always love to see. I think a couple of players and guys who know the team's culture sticking around. We had, talked about Thompson, but Christopher Cray, the running back, a little bit of depth there. Medically redshirting. Thompson, we know is retiring. He's gonna, he's moving on from football. But any thoughts on this, guys? Any thoughts on having a couple players around, or at least recently playing guys around to help out?
Yeah, I mean, and I don't think anyone was expecting too much out of these guys this year. Thompson, like we mentioned, I mean, had to basically retire because it was really unfortunate, couldn't stay healthy. Despite being a huge recruit, one of the bigger recruiting wins earlier in Drink's tenure as a 4-star out of St. Louis, because Missouri had fared so poorly in St. Louis for a number of years. He's a guy, Isaac Thompson, I think you can maybe look at and say, kind of opened the floodgates a little bit to getting more St. Louis guys to come to Missouri. Cray, I know Kenny knows a lot more about him than I do. I think it's safe to say we'll never have a walk-on become one of the leading rushers in the nation like we did last season. But still, it's cool to see these guys both stick around, obviously. Drinkwitz and the staff don't seem like the type of people to just be like, all right, you're medically redshirted, you don't have to be here. Like, I'm sure they wanted these guys around, so that's cool to see.
I think with Isaac too, you go back to his freshman season in 2022, did contribute a good amount on special teams before he suffered an injury. I think he had an illness too at some point that season that kept him out, but those knee injuries really stacked up. And this season, I think you probably would have expected something from him in that secondary if he was fully healthy and ready to go and playing all summer. And you lose a guy like Phillip Roche, Isaac Thompson probably in that conversation to get snaps in that secondary, or at least be depth at the safety position. With Cray, I think there's a good story from Amelia Hurley, she's on the beat for Mizzou football this season for the Columbia Missourian, and she wrote about him during the spring game. He was one of the captains in the black and gold game, which is a big deal for someone who's a walk-on running back. So the guys like him. He's a good leader. Don't know anything of the sort about what the injury is, but guy who's been on special teams before probably wasn't going to see anything in the backfield. But the guys like him. Good leader. He's a St. Louis kid, Missouri kid. So there's probably a good amount of guys on that team that probably looked up to him, especially on the younger end. So unfortunate there, he won't be on the field playing. But it's always good to have a guy like that on your sidelines and in your locker room.
Yeah, it sounds like it's good to keep him around and see how and have him help and be a leader, like you said, in that locker room and dedicate himself there, which sounds like he was going to do whether he was playing or not. So that's good. But yeah, I mean, we wish those two the best. And obviously it's a bummer, especially with Thompson, like we talked about last time, that, things kind of didn't go his way just with the injury of luck. And that's unfortunately just what kind of happens sometimes. But yeah, hopefully they can kind of be leaders for the team off the field. Last thing for football, we have a quick basketball thing as well. Little more, I guess, housekeeping. I don't know. Here, Mizzou football had a couple title changes for their staff, which is kind of interesting. And Eli Hoff from the Post-Dispatch, tweeted a couple notable ones. Payton's favorite guy, Eric Link, is focusing on special teams. Durham Cato is the tight ends coach now, and of course Link, helped out with that position before. And then Jacob Euro is listed as the safeties coach. So a little bit more split up. If you guys have any others on this list, and if you're watching on the YouTube, you can see all the names. What do we think of that with things getting a little bit more specified roles wise for Mizzou heading into the fall?
One thing, obviously, interesting to see Eric Link have his responsibilities shifted for like the 8,000th time he's been on the Mizzou staff. I really wonder why he's not excelling. Also, Jacob Euro is interesting because I do remember talking about like when he was hired, but I don't believe they announced him as safeties coach.
I think, yeah.
So that is interesting to see that he is that now.
Yeah.
Durham Cato, I believe I saw Cato. I'm not 100% for sure. I believe I saw someone on the staff had a quote talking about Cato saying they were very high on him. So good to see there. One thing I did notice, Mizzou has 3 different guys working with some part of the D-line. They have Brian Early working the defensive edge. David Blackwell is working defensive tackles. And then Al Davis, Al Davis, he's working the defensive line just as a whole. So I think Al Davis is just more of a recruiter at this point than just a straight up coach. But I did find that interesting that they have 3 different guys at some part of the D line.
I think there's still probably a focus for Al Davis on the interior. That's what his whole purpose was the last couple months or seasons with Mizzou. But we also talked about it on the recruiting front too, with Payton mentioning is that he's gotten guys in Arkansas, like sort of his big pull areas that are on the offensive side with Jordan Harris, who's the second or third option at tight end going into the season. So I do like that you brought that up, Payton. Overall, I think the one thing with the safeties coach position with Jacob Euro taking over those duties, I think we all kind of assumed that was going to be Corey Batoon's oversight, just thinking that he would just take over everything kind of Blake Baker was looking over.
Yeah, I think you're right on, Kenny, with early, because I went back and looked up him being hired. They specified in that Al Davis was going to shift solely to the interior defensive line, and Early was hired straight up to just focus on the edge rushers, which, I guess for Mizzou's interior defensive line or defensive line as a whole, I think being pretty solid. Like, to have all that investment in it from a coaching staff perspective feels pretty strong. Obviously, the way that that Batoon is going to use those edge rushers, it seems like they have to be pretty versatile. So to have someone like Brian Early there who's at Houston, seems like it'll be helpful as well. And then, like you said, with the recruiting with Al Davis, and Kenny has a couple more. Shout out GAs. We don't give GAs enough credit. I'm excited to see what
Brock Olivo. My goodness, I can't talk. Special teams assistant. That's interesting.
I'm excited to see what Bo Els does. That just sounds like a fake name, but I hope he does great as a defensive grad assistant. Yeah. So some coaching things shifting around. I think, Payton, I'm sure you're happy that Eric Link doesn't have to teach or isn't going to be working with Brett Norfleet anymore.
Yeah, someone else can handle that. Don't let Eric Link try and coach him up.
Yeah, that's fair. Well, there you go. There's some football topics to just get you started. We're going into fall camp, building up the momentum. We can't hit you all with the big news, right off the bat. It's got to build up a little bit as we get rolling here. But some storylines are going to continue to come out on the football front. Before we go to quick hits, gentlemen, we have a basketball thing to touch on. Just a quick note. You guys can give your 2 cents if you'd like. Obviously, basketball recruiting will start to heat up as the fall goes on, and a 5-star is going to be taking an official visit to Mizzou. Jalen Haralson. He is out of Indiana, La Lumiere School, which is. Can you guys name an alum from there?
Nope.
This tests your basketball recruiting knowledge. Okay, I didn't think so.
Did Caleb Swanigan go there?
I don't know. I only know one, and it's Jordan Poole went to La Lumiere School. It's it is a basketball prep school in Indiana. That's where this guy, Jalen Haralson, goes. He is visiting Missouri on September 21st, Purdue the week after, and then Kansas on October 19th. So he'll get both sides of the rivalry there. But yeah, a 5-star to watch. Dennis Gates recruiting.
It's quite the list there because, by the way, I don't think Caleb Swanigan actually went there. I just know he went to high school in Indiana.
Mm-hmm.
But when you look at this list, I mean, it's quite the collection of teams here that are getting visits. You have Kansas, blue blood. It's Kansas. Of course, they're going to get 5 stars on campus. You have Purdue, in-state team that made the national title this year, has a great history with bigs. And this guy... Haralson, he is 6'6" small forward on the 247 composite. He's the number 9 ranked recruit in the nation. So you have those two, and then you have a team that just went 0-19 in conference play. So it does speak to the recruiting chops of this staff that Mizzou has. They can recruit, man. Their recruiting has really not taken too big of a hit after that 0-19 stretch. And Missouri, I mean, their high school class is likely to be smaller this year. They're not going to pull in 5 freshmen every single year. You're probably going to get 2 or 3 guys this year. Aaron Rowe is already in the fold. This would be quite the get. I'm sure it's that he is at the top of their wish list for this. They can be a bit selective.
He's do you think he's coming on September 21st as like an early birthday present for me? To Mizzou?
Yeah, one day early. You think he'll commit on your birthday?
That'd be really nice. We find out he
day.
cancels his Purdue on September 28th and Kansas on October 19th that day. And then next day he's like, "Happy birthday, Kenny Van Doren."
I have committed. Yeah, there you go. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I think it's nice, we had this show obviously during the crazy 2024 stretch. It's nice to talk about some men's basketball recruiting for Dennis, just because of the guys he does attract. Doesn't land all of them. You're never going to land all of them, but just the fact that, like Payton said, I think that was a good way to articulate. This team went 0-18 in conference play and is still getting 5 stars.
19. I'm counting 19. The tournament.
Sorry, excuse me. 0-19 in against conference teams. God, that Georgia tournament game was terrible.
Dude, that Georgia, I don't want to get too sidetracked, but that Georgia tournament game, I remember with a minute left, I was like, they're gonna do it. They're gonna win their first game in the SEC tournament, and they still find a way to blow it. I mean, that was just. I'll remember every single one of those games in their own individual way.
I don't think I'll forget where I was for that Georgia game, and that might be the lamest event to remember where you were forever.
I know exactly what I was doing. I was sitting at work watching the end of it, waiting for the other things to get done, and I just was like, "Oh my god, they're gonna do it! They're up like 9 right now. There's like a minute left. They're gonna do it."
Where were you, Kenny?
I don't remember. To be honest. I was just sitting at home
fan.
watching
I'm
it.
just kidding. I was at a bar in Chicago the night before I myself drove to the SEC tournament and was hoping to I was excited because I was like, maybe I can meet up with some writers I know cover Mizzou, and by some miracle they'll still be down there after an 0-18 year, but was not to be. But yeah, anyway, it could all turn around if this guy Jalen Haralson commits to Mizzou on Kenny's birthday. That's not what we're hoping for. So there you go. There's basketball news. I'm sure we'll have Drew King on close to the season, get a preseason outlook from him as well. Until then, that'll be a while, but I guess until the next time we talk about football, let's wrap up this show, boys. Finish off with quick hits. Okay, quick hits time. We will finish up the show. We have some good jerseys of the week this week for some Mizzou connections. Kenny, I will kick it to you. What do you have for your jersey of the week?
My jersey of the week goes to former Mizzou safety Jaylon Carlies, who is now a linebacker for the Colts, drafted this past year. And there's a cool, headline. I can't read it because I don't have a subscription to the Indy Star, but I hope you do. I hope you get to read it. I hope you get to read this column from Greg Doyle of the Indy Star. Get on the YouTube. Get on the YouTube right now, and you can see me doing the heart thing.
Like that.
You like this? We'll have a great relationship, Jalen. JC, if I may. But yeah, really cool. The Jaylon Carlies stories, like Jaylon Carlies, is growing right before our eyes is the headline. If you have a subscription, it'd be really cool if you could read it and let us know how it is. But I don't know if we want to give too much credit to Greg Doyle. He really hasn't been in the best light in this past year.
Kenny, I was introducing that segment and I totally forgot because I checked what your jersey was a while ago when you put this on, and I was like, oh my God, it's Greg Doyle. And then I forgot, and I was introducing it, and you made like kind of a face, and I was like, what's the big deal? And I looked back up and I was like, oh my God, it's Greg Doyle. Ugh, yeah. If only he didn't write this article. But I guess
he's been better. I haven't seen him in the news or upsetting anyone. So
that's because he doesn't cover Fever games. Oh God, just thinking about that makes my skin.
Oh, it's so bad. It's so bad.
It's a little too aggressive and trying to be friendly. But back to the man of the hour, like JC.
Greg Doyle.
Yeah, moving him to linebacker was actually like brilliant. Like he's going to be one of the best coverage linebackers you can probably find in the league if he gets a lot of playing time. So I do hope that he continues to seemingly flash at camp. The talent is all there. He has an insane athletic ceiling. It's just a matter of being maybe a bit more consistent. The last time we saw him play in an organized football game was that Ohio State game in the Cotton Bowl that Missouri won 14-3. And he was, that was probably the best game of his career. I don't know if he, maybe not, he didn't pick a ball off like he did a bunch of times at Mizzou, but, he was just a menace in that game.
I will give credit to whoever the photographer was who took this photo. This is a very nice photo of JC. Just smiling.
Happy JC.
Yeah. I'll shut that out. I'm excited for him. It'll be a fun season. We're almost now we're in, preseason range for the NFL. So we'll probably get to see a bunch of these guys, former Mizzou guys, take the field a bunch. And obviously, of course, a bunch when the actual NFL season starts. But preseason, some of the opportunities for some of these guys who were drafted later. So nice. All right, Payton, let's move on from the journalist that is Greg Doyle. What is your jersey of the week?
My jersey of the week, speaking of Ohio State and Missouri history, is going to be Dorial Green Beckham and Michael Porter Jr. because Rivals had a very interesting tweet here, actually. They tweeted, in the history of @Rivals, only 2 schools have landed the #1 overall football and basketball player, and they are Ohio State and Mizzou. You can see on the YouTube there, Ohio State landed Terrell Pryor and Greg Oden. Mizzou landed Dorial Green Beckham and Michael Porter Jr. I had no idea Dorial Green Beckham was that highly ranked, to be honest with you. I knew he was a 5-star, like a universal 5-star. It was like the biggest recruiting win Pinkel ever had by like a country mile. But I did not know he was that high up. So I got to ask you guys if let's say this duo, Greg Oden and Terrell Pryor and Dorial Green Beckham and Michael Porter Jr., if they were to play, let's say, a neutral sport, baseball, who would win?
I mean, 2-on-2 baseball.
I think I got to go Ohio State's team.
Yeah.
In the Cotton Bowl baseball
Yeah.
Ohio
Greg
State.
Oden, like, I mean, it's super sad what happened to him in the NBA, but like, he was a beast. I mean, look at that.
Yeah.
Look at that. That's him in high school.
7 foot,
240.
240. I mean, he
Like,
could
come
hit
on.
bombs.
That's actually kind of scrawny for 7 feet.
Still. I mean, and Terrell Pryor, he could literally drag bunt all day and steal each base.
Yeah.
Yeah, no offense to Dorial Green Beckham and Michael Porter Jr. I don't think they'd beat Terrell Pryor and Greg Oden in the Cotton Baseball Bowl.
It's kind of wild, but when it comes to pro output, Michael Porter Jr. has the other 3 of them beat by like a country mile.
Yep.
Which is kinda
100% does.
Like,
So,
he's the only one who really did anything in the pros. Like, he has
Mizzou can take that to the bank.
Yeah.
Is he the only champion?
Definitely. I don't think Terrell Pryor hasn't won anything. Oden was on the Blazers, so
Terrell Pryor was like a decent receiver for a couple years for the Browns and Jets.
yeah.
So I don't think he did anything. And Dorial Green Beckham did not do anything.
No, yeah. Porter has them like beat. Could go for another chip. The Nuggets. I'm curious, Kenny. Shout out Rivals. Good tweet.
7 years old.
Oh, is that from? I didn't realize that.
Yeah, April 12th, 2017.
Why did this come? How did you find this?
I searched. This is a really convoluted story of how I found this. But there's a person named Justin Van Doren that lives in St. Louis, and I looked him up on Twitter, and like his last tweet was in response to this. And I was like, oh, this is kind of cool. So I sent it to our friends, and that's how I found it. There's more to that story about why I was looking this guy up. But no
I would like to know a little more context while you're looking.
No, it's okay. It's okay. It's okay. Maybe another time.
Wait, so do you think this has been beaten since? Do you think anyone else has joined the list?
Oh, Georgia.
Oh, yeah.
Anthony Edwards,
Yeah.
maybe, and then somebody else in the Kirby Smart era. They've probably
I totally
done it by
thought
now.
this was from like now.
I thought this was from now. I didn't realize until you guys
my
just
gosh,
mentioned
really?
it was 2017.
No, I just
Okay,
noticed that.
so maybe we should let me amend this. As of 2017, only 2 teams had done this.
it's like such.
Oh man, I thought you guys knew.
No.
My bad.
I had no idea.
That's why I thought it was cool that it was only Ohio State and Mizzou, and then 6 years later they played each other in a bowl game.
That is kind of a fun full circle.
Little Cotton Bowl connection there.
They definitely tweeted this because Mizzou got Michael Porter Jr. Like that was why.
That makes a lot more sense.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. There you go. Yeah. So I think Georgia surely has had it. If Ant was number 1,
If Ant was number 1 on Rivals, which I almost am certain he would have been.
but otherwise, I don't know. I don't think they.
They had to. I know Jalen Carter, I believe, was a really highly ranked recruit. Vandegrift was a really highly ranked recruit.
Anthony Edwards was number 3 on Rivals.
So they probably have not done that then.
Georgia then. You know
Bama,
what?
I doubt. Was Brandon Miller number 1 on Rivals?
I'll check.
No,
Because if he was, then they've definitely done it.
I don't think so.
I don't think he was either.
17th.
But
Yeah,
17th.
he was. Yeah, he was a little lower.
Boy, he was Certainly the best freshman out of that class, though.
You know what school I'm surprised hasn't done this, but I'm not surprised that they haven't done it since 2017. Florida.
Auburn. Oh,
I would have maybe expected Florida to have done
has
this.
Florida gotten any big
Like
basketball?
2000s.
Well, like
I mean,
back
they
in the
won
back in the
back-to-back.
day, yeah. Like
Oh, I guess that's
I'm
true.
saying
Like
in the
Joe
past,
Noah probably was like
yeah.
a really highly ranked recruit.
Boozer.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, since then, I don't really know who else would have. Oklahoma, not in basketball since
Trey Young would have
Trae
been
Young
before this.
was before this.
Yeah.
Yeah, no. So maybe it still stands. Maybe it still stands.
Maybe
If anyone knows, I don't know, drop in the comments or something, sports nerds. Maybe we'll do some independent research. But anyway, it's still a
someone
great
did
jersey of
ask
the
a
week.
good question, Oklahoma wise, in the comments. Was Blake Griffin number one? Clearly, he was not.
Yeah, they would have known that. Yeah, scroll through. Maybe there's a. You think anyone
Number
commented on this?
23 for Blake Griffin? Wow.
Kenny, you should retweet. You should retweet this now. And see if people reply. If only Rivals was around.
Alex
in the 90s.
Schiffer there pointing out that LSU doesn't have it because Ben Simmons was behind Skull.
Yep.
That is insane.
That is such a Michigan reply. If only Rivals was around in the 90s, Michigan would be there with Weber and Gary.
Yeah.
Maybe more. That's ridiculous.
This won't be the last time one of those players is mentioned on this show, by the way.
It's a good point. How'd that work out for their football team? Nice. Good rabbit hole. Good rabbit hole, Kenny. My jersey of the week to finish things off goes to Cody Schrader. We're going back to NFL rookies here. This was from a couple of days ago. Kyle Juszczyk, shout out, one of the best fullbacks maybe ever. Talked about Cody Schrader. He said he'd been impressed with the 49ers running back room, but said, quote, if you're not watching on the YouTube, I've been particularly impressed with Cody Schrader. He works his absolute tail off. He's very intelligent. He just goes out there and plays a good, consistent, clean game, and we've really enjoyed having him. Sounds like the Cody we all know. So, I'm glad that's kind of continuing in the NFL. I mean, it's the exact reason why we all knew he'd stick in the NFL. He's a great character guy. He's only going to make a practice team better. He's only going to push the people in front of him. I kind of sound like a coach, but that's the only really way to talk about Cody Schrader. So day in, day out. And I mean, Kyle Juszczyk, to get recognition from him, I think says a lot. Like he's a veteran, been good in this league for a long time. So
yeah, I doubt he just throws this praise around lightly. But don't be surprised. Be ready. I mean, if Cody Schrader does not make the 49ers, it will not be because he was outworked for it. No doubt about that. Very, very interesting one to keep an eye on throughout the postseason. I think he'll be. I think he's just going to be too undeniable to be on the active roster.
Yeah. Debo will get hurt eventually. They'll need another running back.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Shall we move on? Oh, I don't have oh my God, I didn't preload it. This is bad podcasting.
I like no cap and he's the main bird.
Good job, Payton. One more time.
I like no cap and he's the main bird.
Shawnee's main bird of the week. Shout out Sean. Kenny.
Yeah, I just wanted to revisit the Miami game last week when we saw that report on it, and this comes from Gabe DeArmond of Power Mizzou. According to information obtained via an open records request, Mizzou will pay Miami, Ohio $750,000 to buy out the scheduled football game between the two schools in 2025. Officially out of that game, and the bird tie-in, of course, is Miami is the Red Hawks.
Yay!
Thank God. Boy, would this have been embarrassing. And no, I wasn't on the show to discuss this, but no, it is not because Mizzou is a little scared that Miami has won 8 games in the last 4 out of 5 years or whatever. It is because they don't want to go play in a goddamn MAC stadium because they're an SEC program and shit like that should not happen. Also, you guys had that cool conversation about.
Yeah, well, I was going to say, I want your thoughts on that.
Yeah. Which non-conference game would you think would be really cool? My answer is now and will forever be Oregon. I think that would be one of the coolest home and homes I've ever seen. If Mizzou got to play Oregon at Autzen and then at Faroe, that's just a cool matchup to me.
I would love if Oregon did one of their like maybe blackout uniforms and Mizzou did all gold for one of those, and then maybe Mizzou does like a whiteout and then Oregon does their green, just from a uniform perspective.
Mhm.
That could be
Mizzou
fun.
rocking like white pants, black jersey, white helmet at Faroe is like against Oregon wearing like green, white, green or something. Like that's aura personified, I think, or
It'll be
uniformified.
it'll be even cooler when Logan Reichert transfers to Oregon and is an
All right,
All-American center for the Ducks.
Jesus.
Center, he's moved.
He's
two
moved to
notches
center.
in.
Yep. All-American.
He's gonna
Dude,
wait his turn and be a fantastic piece.
The Mizzou to Oregon pipeline is, it is underrated.
Well, they do have Dan Lanning as their head coach, and he coached high school in the Kansas
Yep.
City area. So he's got ties there. Went to William Jewell, which is a Kansas City area college.
He might be my favorite non-Eli Drinkwitz coach. I love Dan.
He's
Lanning.
cool. He is very cool.
Yeah, he rocks. Him. Yeah, there's some good ones. All right, good one, Kenny. And Payton, I guess we'll stick with you. What's your main bird of the week?
I'm gonna stick with Redbirds as well, because former Arizona Cardinals GM, who basically was like, they didn't have the guts to fire him, basically, so they like had him take a medical leave or something like that, and he just didn't return. He is no longer in the league.
What's his name? Steve, is it Keem?
It's Keem or Keim. It's because it's Keim time, but we'll get into that here right now. He's starting an NIL branding and evaluation company called Brand Boss. Okay, now what Brand Boss is, they give you the URL like in the video. You can basically, what Steve Keim does, he like has 3 different tiers from what I was looking at: silver, gold, platinum, I believe is what it was, and it was like 2,000, 3,000, 5,000.
Jesus.
What you can do is, if you're a high school player, you can pay for one of these tiers. You can send in your game film to Steve Keim, and he will like legitimately, like 3,500 was the gold tier. You can see it right there if you're watching on the YouTube. He'll give you feedback. He'll give you like what you need to improve upon. Depending on the tiers, you can maybe get a little bit more info out of them. But I don't know, man. This is just so funny to me. Like, this NFL GM is now just like, if you give me $2,000, I'll tell you like your footwork stinks or something like that. Also, if you go to the website, he does have a lot of quotes that are flattering about him. He has.
Kenny, can we look this up?
You may not be able to find him like this.
Oh, we found
okay,
him.
there it is. Yeah. So here's the website. I mean, you got Blake Shelton, first of all, is standing there in a Keim Time shirt, pointing menacingly at it. You have a clip of him talking to Colin Cowherd there. Bruce Arians says, having worked alongside Steve for 5 years, can easily confirm he's one of the best evaluators in the game. His knowledge at every position is outstanding. Steve knows what a player looks like. That's why he gave up on Josh Rosen after 1 year. If you scroll down, Cliff Kingsbury has a quote in here as well. I forget. There it is. It's a big, long one, but if you're on the YouTube, you can see it. And if you're not on the YouTube, you can go to brandboss-nil.com. Go to Keim Time. So this is what Steve Keim is up to, if anyone was curious. I know a lot of Arizona Cardinals fans were. Boy, it's really funny to see like the duo of Kingsbury and Keim teaming up again.
I have a couple things. First of all, I love that the About Us tab is like below everything else. Do you see that? On the like About Us is like not on the top ticker. Did you put a thing in your cart? Yeah, proceed to check out. We can use the unwritten rule fund. Let's get our brand evaluated. The other thing in that Bruce Arians quote, he had alongside as 2 words, which is incorrect, but
$5,000 is just crazy. I mean, think about it. Like, there's gonna be a 2-star QB that like pays for like the $5,000 tier, and he's like, "How do I fix myself, Steve?"
And he's probably, what if Steve's just like, I would just go to regular
Steve is
college.
going to have to tell him the truth. I mean,
Yeah.
that's kind of what it is. I didn't look into what else is on this site. I was just interested in what was happening with
Oh, here are
Time
the athletes. Hopefully no Mizzou commits.
under
hopefully-
construction.
Hopefully. Oh, okay. Well, there you go. Hopefully Matt Zollers
They just started, so
is not a Steve Keim athlete. Sheesh. Yeah,
you go.
nice. There you go, Payton. I wonder. Hopefully, Darius Robinson does not have to give a quote about Steve Keim. I guess he was already gone by the time D-Rob got there. But there you go.
Let's move on.
What?
Look at this, man. Let's move on.
Why are you following it?
I have an
All right,
Instagram post.
I don't know how to transition out of that. My main bird of the week, Payton. Speaking of Oregon, my main bird is the Oregon duck. Bird self-explanatory. It's a duck. Not anything Mizzou related here, but the Oregon duck showed up randomly to the Nebraska football press conference for the start of their fall camp. So that was fun. I know there was one. I think they put a giant one in Minneapolis for the Big Ten or Indianapolis. There he is holding a microphone. If you're looking on the YouTube, guess he's just showing up to Nebraska events. I don't know why. I guess making their presence felt in the Big Ten. Yeah, that's all I got. I don't know. I don't have any other explanation.
He's scouting.
Yeah, getting some intel.
He's scouting. I don't know what to. He's just getting info on opponents.
There's no way they kept him they let him stay in the room when.
Do they have a name for this guy?
I think it's
Donald.
Just,
it's not Donald. But obviously we have Truman the Tiger. Like, is this just Oregon Duck? That is a lame mascot name if it is.
I have a take. I think
Puddles.
Nebraska
Puddles. Okay.
Puddles. Okay.
I don't think I've ever heard that.
Yeah, I always thought it was just called the duck. I have a take. I think Nebraska is getting a little too unserious with their football program, especially given how bad they were last year. Because we also had Dylan Raiola, their freshman quarterback, just pretending to be Patrick Mahomes and to get Twitter interactions. Hasn't played a snap of football yet. I don't know.
Played this spring.
Have you seen him play before?
Oh no. Sure.
Like,
High school.
He has the same mannerisms.
Oh yeah, he
as
tries to
Patrick
copy
Mahomes.
him.
They work out together in the off season.
It's so lame.
If there's anyone to imitate, I mean,
Best person.
you're gonna be upset. I know Mizzou fans, the older Mizzou fans, really have a disliking for Nebraska. Obviously, that was before our time. But I do think Nebraska is on the come up. I think they'll be pretty decent this year.
I just think, when you're doing all this, you're trying to be Patrick Mahomes, you haven't played a snap of college football yet. You're asking for it. I mean, if I'm a defensive end, I'm trying to hit you a little harder. I don't know. That's all I'm saying.
I believe he was the number 1 ranked recruit in the nation.
He is. He's very good. I'm not trying to
He's yelling at clouds.
Yeah, all right. Yeah, I guess I'm being a little man yelling at clouds. All right, we'll move on. The Oregon Duck was at Nebraska's football meeting. I don't know. Maybe I'm becoming a Nebraska hater. Payton, what'd you learn this week?
Best thing I learned this week is that Matt Patricia, the very popular defensive mind, very popular former head coach, also he's an offensive mind. Silly me. I forgot the Patriots had him call offensive plays 2 years ago. Mizzou had him come in and talk to the team, I guess. He went over some of the CFB rule changes ahead of fall camp. It's not really anything major. It's just Matt Patricia was at Mizzou recently, and that's the best thing I learned.
Why is Matt Patricia explaining what the CFP rule changes are?
They probably were very similar to some NFL rules. Like the 2-minute rule is in this year.
I guess that makes sense.
There is that. But yeah, Matt Patricia, who is one of the most brilliant coaches in league history.
My favorite part of this video of him that we chose for the tweet is Gerard Hamilton walking through right now, friend of the show. And then he goes,
"Oh shoot, I didn't see it."
Rewind it, Kenny. Rewind it.
It's fine.
5 seconds. I think it has to read.
It'll pop up again. It looped.
Yeah, it'll come back.
Hold on. Where's Gerard?
No, it didn't. I don't think it looped. I think the KOMU
No,
transition.
it'll loop.
Well, it'll loop now.
It'll loop.
Now it's going to be like another.
It'll loop.
Now it's
Oh,
gonna
it's
be
a
another
40-second
50
clip. I'm not
seconds.
waiting for this.
That's what I was trying to say.
It's fine.
It's fine.
But yeah, Matt Patricia.
Now you skipped right past it. No, I don't know. I don't know if you actually did.
There's Gerard.
Oh, just sneaking on through.
I like that coat, Gerard. I know you're not listening, but I like that coat.
We'll have him on the show. We'll get Gerard on. All right. Kenny, what'd you learn?
Best thing I learned this week, award season. This is the last time we'll mention Johnny Walker Jr. During awards.
Well, during awards, yeah.
Yeah, during awards. We mentioned him last week when Jack made the silly idea that he should have an NIL
It's not that
deal
silly.
with an alcohol company. Gross.
It's not that
Can't
silly.
do that.
Yeah, disgusting. Johnny Walker Jr. was named to the Bronco
don't have to tell
Nagurski
anyone.
Trophy watch list. Yeah,
No
he
one has
told
to know.
everyone.
No
He
one has
told
to know.
people. Okay.
No, I told people, but if he does it, he doesn't have to tell people. Just do it.
Okay.
Under the table. Sorry.
Okay.
Sorry.
Yeah, Jack wants Mizzou players to break the law, and we just had a whole
It's
segment
not
about
against the
breaking
law.
Okay, yes, but Johnny Walker named
law.
to the Bronco Nagurski Trophy watch list. Congrats to Johnny Walker Jr. Might be added to more watch list down the road, but this is the last time we'll mention Johnny Walker Jr.
Yep, I'm not doing it with all the awards. Good job, Johnny Walker. I hope to see you emerge as Edge 1. You broke out last year. It was really nice.
It was nice. Is there anyone else we should put the cap on right now? No more award talk for them. Brady
Yes,
Cook?
I have one more. We already have it on Brady Cook, I believe. But Christian Williams, I believe
For
he is
being a good person awards.
Yes, he was on the he's a Warfel Trophy watch list.
Okay.
Yeah.
He is. Oh, here I can actually just go right here. One of Mizzou football's most recent tweets. It's right here.
There you go.
Warfel Trophy. There it is.
Very
Congrats.
bright smile from Kristen Williams in that photo.
Always.
Christian
Can't see that
Williams-
one. Don't look at that
Break
Luther
that.
Burden
Nope,
watch
don't
list.
look at that. Don't look at that
Don't
one.
move that. Yeah, don't scroll. So Kristen Williams, Johnny Walker, Luther, and Brady Cook.
Yep.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. We should probably
Oh,
mention
Matt
this.
Zollers,
out,
breaking
Matt
news, is going to the 2025 All-American Bowl. Very
Breaking
well-run show that we have here.
Wait, no, this is breaking news. This
From
is
a 4 or 5
this is from
p.m.
like 10 minutes ago.
Oh, wow, it is actually.
Yeah,
Never mind.
all right. Yeah, we don't. We
My
know
bad.
what we're doing. Why does he look so scared in that photo?
His eyes
He's a
are lighting
pro.
up because he sees Luther
Ah!
Burden down the field because Luther Burden decided to come back for his 4th year of college.
And Matt Zollers won the job over Drew Pine.
Yeah.
Yeah, nice.
Real talk.
There
I
you go.
hope this is the last season that Luther Burden ever steps onto Furrow. I'm not gonna lie. Something would have had to have gone very wrong if he steps on the field for Mizzou next year.
As a Mizzou player, we should have him back on furrow for
Yeah.
guest events.
Whenever they retire his number after they win the national title this year, they should retire. They should have him on the field.
Kenny, do you have anything more on the All-American Bowl other than Matt's? I don't think there's really. I guess it's. I mean, it's a high honor.
Kind of like the Under Armour one a little bit more. Get to go to Florida. All American Bowl's in San Antonio, and I went to it this past year. Very good talents. It was a kind of cool all-around experience around. But just playing in that stadium is pretty blah. You get to play at Camping World in the Under Armour one. But congrats to Matt Zollers.
Yeah, there you go. Shout out Matt Zollers. He's a very good recruit.
I don't like that they called him a 4-star.
They're 247, so they have to follow.
Are they? Dang it.
Of course. That. Yeah.
NBC.
All right. We're Under Armour. We're an Under Armour All-American Bowl. Much better.
It's funny because it's NBC hosts it, but CBS owns 247, and for some
Oh.
reason they follow the 247 numbers, and they
Yeah,
choose the
that's-
players as well.
That's interesting. Who 247 does?
Yes, there's
Huh.
like representatives that are affiliated with 247 that help choose the teams.
Interesting. Well, he's going, so they made a right choice there.
If you guys ever need info on the All-American selection process, we have the expert.
I like they have the old. If you look in the background, they have the old cards. I see Christian McCaffrey, Chase Young,
Trevor Lawrence.
That's
Zeke
pretty cool.
Elliott,
That's pretty cool, actually. Yeah.
Zeke
CJ
Elliott.
Stroud.
Watch the Mount Rushmore on Sunday.
Yep. There's been 2
Um,
names that I'm almost certain will be drafted that we've mentioned on this podcast.
Very much, very much. All right, my best thing I learned this week. I guess I didn't really learn anything. Well, I did learn things. I learned what Mizzou men's basketball players want to have their ratings be if there was a college basketball video game. I'm really enjoying these stand-up. We just put a prompt out and a camera, and as the players walk through, whatever the technical term for that is, for Mizzou men's basketball, it's been very funny seeing the personality of these guys. There was a lot. Aiden Shaw, he's talking right there, made the really. Aiden Shaw would be broken in a college basketball video game with his
Run and
his
dunk city
rebounding. Yeah, so he would probably be the guy I would be most excited to use if the game came out. But what would you
just
guys
don't
say?
try a jumper. I've learned that a lot of these guys, I think, have a little bit too high rating on themselves, which is good. They're confident. We don't want guys like Jesus Carolero getting this prompt and going like 74. Like that would suck. But no, I agree with you completely, Knowlton. They've done a much better job, I think, of just getting like more of these players' personalities out there. Like I just never felt any sort of connection with the team last year because we just never got any behind the scenes looks, and they sucked. I mean, we got like 2 episodes of Noah's Ark, and then it just went away, and then they started losing games and they didn't bring it back. But I mean, like Caleb Grill, you would have thought he was just like boring and like kind of like a bit weird based off last year because he like got ejected and was kind of a hothead, but he's like funny in these
Don't
videos.
talk about me like that.
Yeah, I'm talking about you, but he's funny in these videos. Trey Gomillion gave himself an 88. That was funny. But no, I do like seeing all the personalities in these videos.
You didn't answer my prompt. Who would you want?
What was your prompt? Say again.
Who would you want to use?
I just rambled on about nothing.
I was watching the video. I was watching these guys talk.
Jesus Christ. Who would you want to use, like, be most excited to use on the team in the game?
Ooh, I probably can't say Payton Marshall because he's a freshman, but like having a huge seven. Well, he's a true freshman.
You heard him himself. He said, "I'm 7'3". Nobody can guard me." 99.
Well, that's what I'm saying. But like, he's probably in a hypothetical college basketball game is not getting a very high rating as a true freshman.
I don't know.
So I'll say
they did the freshman pretty high in the football game. Some of them.
Then maybe I would want to say Payton Marshall if he has a decent ranking. Then
Kenny,
guy on the screen, Jeremy Rick Sanchez, Pickle Rick Sanchez. I think he would be the most fun.
Yeah.
Good story about him from Drew King. Yeah, he follows us on
the
Twitter.
Show. Yeah. Nice. Also, Trent Pierce said his 3-pointer would be the best part of his game, which was pretty funny.
I'm willing to be proven wrong on that, Trent.
Drew King's best take on the unwritten rule. There you go. So do you think they'll do a college with how popular the football game was?
No, I don't think they'll do it. They got rid of it before any of those lawsuits even came up beforehand. And quite frankly, if you go back and play the college basketball games, they're not very good.
Yeah, they kind of aren't.
I think also you also have like guys that are only going to play 1 year. And I think like the whole fun part about the college football game is that you have Luther Burden and other guys that could be on the teams for multiple years.
Yeah, even if they're really good. That's fair. Also, like EA has cornered the market on football, and in basketball you have 2K, and that makes it tricky. But I like the hypothetical. I'm hoping to see more of these good videos from Mizzou men's basketball. That's all I have, fellas. Payton, got a joke for us?
Do I ever? This one comes from our favorite TV series, The Today Show. Guys.
Yes.
Nope, I've definitely said the Humpty. Have I said the Humpty Dumpty one on this show? Dang it. Boy, I'm actually running dry on the jokes on this. Oh, here we go. Guys. Why did the Oreo go to the dentist?
He had to get a filling. He needed filling.
Yep, you're close. It's because he lost his filling.
There we go.
So there we go. Wow, that top video is just
Yeah.
unbelievable. The title. Wow, the top 2 are unbelievable.
It's both TMZ. Both of them are TMZ. It's a TMZ short clip and a TMZ 1 over a minute.
Google
Al
Al
Roker.
Roker White House visit for more information.
Yeah, if you're not watching on the YouTube. All right. Well, that'll do it for the unwritten rule on this start of August. Actually, I will give a birthday shout out to our gracious person who supplies us our beats for the intro and outro, Elijah. It's his birthday today, so thank you for making the beats. Happy birthday.
Thank you, Elijah.
Nasty on Twitter,
Yes.
right?
Yep. Yeah. He's coming out with his own EP soon, so maybe I'll plug that. I'll put it in the description for something. So anyway, happy birthday, Elijah. Everyone, go have fun this weekend, and we will see you guys for a good Mount Rushmore. Come back from Mount Rushmore on Sunday. It'll be a good one. Until then, later.